She didn't hand it to me. That would have implied discussion. She slid it across the kitchen counter, slow and deliberate like a contract. A single sheet of printer paper, no header, no explanation, just bullet points in bold. Boundaries, she said, her voice clipped, professional. Non-negotiable. You stick to these, we rebuild trust. I didn't ask why I was the only one doing the rebuilding. She leaned against the counter, arms folded, not looking at me. Not angry, not pleading, just cold, like she'd already had the argument in her head and decided she'd won. I read the list once, then again. No checking her phone, no questions about her alone time, no showing up unannounced anywhere. No tone policing, weekly therapy for me. It was a compliance schedule, not a marriage repair plan. Still, I nodded. She blinked once like she hadn't expected that. Good, she said, sliding her phone into her hoodie pocket. This is how we rebuild. I smiled politely and asked if she wanted a glass of wine. She declined, said she had an early yoga class. That night I lay awake, the sheet folded on my nightstand, mocking me in silence. It didn't read like a set of healing boundaries. It read like instructions for how to disappear inside a marriage. I remembered the week before when she'd said she needed a weekend to reset her nervous system. She'd spoken it like a diagnosis. Not a request, a prescription. I'd agreed, of course. I always did. I'd packed her favorite protein bars, washed her car. That was the game. I would comply and she would decide what counted as progress. But something in that list felt rehearsed. I started making backups, not out of paranoia, out of protocol. Emails, calendars, shared folders. I duplicated anything digital she shared with me, synced it to a drive she didn't know about. And I started writing everything down. Where she went, when she left, what card she used. Not obsessively, methodically. Because something told me I wasn't being trusted, I was being managed. The next morning she kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. Coffee brewing, robe tied loose at the waist. Casual, domestic. You slept okay? She asked, not pausing for the answer. Fine, I said, sliding toast onto her plate. I watched her scroll on her phone, always face down when she set it down. Always locked, even at home. Her smile was distant but satisfied, like she'd achieved something. She thought I was trying to win her back. She didn't know I'd started watching. It began with silence on Sundays. She called them recalibration days. No touch, no affection, not even casual gestures, no brushing shoulders in the hallway, no hand resting on mine while we sat near each other. She needed nervous system neutrality, she said. I accepted it, at first. I thought maybe we'd worn each other thin. We had disagreements, sure, and her list, while harsh, had emerged from something real. I'd expected reciprocity, vulnerability, not a performance. Instead, I got precision. Monday through Friday, she'd schedule her warmth, a smile before work, a kiss if the mood aligned, never spontaneous, never messy, always within the bounds of what she called regulated connection. I brought it up once carefully. I've been thinking about how we used to just laugh, fall asleep talking. I miss that. She didn't look up from her laptop. This isn't about nostalgia. That was trauma bonding. We're building something conscious now. She framed withdrawal as empowerment, and when I paused too long, she added, if you can't handle these rhythms, it means you still haven't done the work. That phrase, done the work, became her shield, but the gaps in her stories began to widen. She took a new interest in women's retreats. Overnight stays, sometimes entire weekends. Each time a different location, sometimes 2 hours away, sometimes local, but the receipts didn't match. One Friday, I noticed a notification from our joint card, a small charge at a juice bar I didn't recognize. I clicked. The bar was in a hotel lobby downtown. She was supposed to be in Vermont. I asked gently that night, stirring pasta while she leaned against the counter. How was the retreat? Grounding, she said. You wouldn't understand. I saw a charge in the city. She didn't blink. We carpooled through there. One of the girls needed to stop. It sounded plausible. But her tone was wrong, too calm, too polished, like the explanation had been rehearsed. That night I searched the juice bar. It was inside a wellness hotel, the kind that offered spa packages, nutrition consultations, and private suite rentals. I bookmarked it. Over the next month, the same hotel showed up again, not always on our card, sometimes through her business account, the one tied to her coaching practice. Each charge was identical, same amount, same timing, always Friday evenings. 3 in a row. all listed under vague service codes. It wasn't proof yet, but it was pattern. I didn't confront her, not directly. Instead, I subscribed to the same hotel's wellness app using a dummy email. I wanted to see what they offered, what those charges matched. That's when I found it, a reset and renew package. 2-night stay, private suite, sound therapy, and personalized service. It matched the amount to the dollar. She wasn't retreating with girlfriends. She was checking into the same private suite under wellness billing on rotation. And it wasn't with me. I closed the app, sat quietly in the dark kitchen. The fridge hummed softly behind me. She thought the rules she gave me were enough to keep me obedient. She didn't realize I'd started reading them like a map. The next transaction didn't hit our joint card. It hit her LLC. She had formed it last year, a coaching practice she said helped women reclaim emotional authority. I'd supported it. Helped her draft the launch copy, paid the site designer, told friends. She was articulate, driven, the kind of woman people trusted with their stories. Now it was the shell covering hers. The fourth charge came on a Thursday, not a weekend, small detail but off pattern. That caught my attention. The charge memo simply read, Wellness Partner Booking. I logged into the app I downloaded under a dummy profile, tried to book the same package. When I clicked Continue, it routed me through a third-party vendor. Same memo line, so that was the channel. I registered again, same alias, different burner email. This time I used a gift card to test it. Everything lined up. Same charge format. The hotel had hidden its luxury stays under wellness branding. To a spreadsheet, it looked like she was doing legitimate business. But the trail wasn't business. Her appointments didn't match. Her online calendar, which she shared with her assistant, showed client sessions during times she was off-grid in that hotel. No Zoom links, no calls logged, and then I saw it. A charge from a seafood place 4 blocks from the hotel, 2 in trays, same date. Same time stamp as her supposed virtual client session. I kept collecting, methodical, quiet, screenshots, folder structure, timeline. Even her assistants shared calendar notes, which I accessed through a password she'd once shared during a vacation when she couldn't log in. All of it was saved in a cloud vault only I could see. The name of the folder, Compliance Archive. Every time I spotted a new receipt, I added it. Every mismatch between stated whereabouts and digital trail logged. Every meal, every duplicate booking, every card shuffle timestamped. I kept my face neutral. Dinners stayed calm. I thanked her when she prepped meals, asked how her sessions went, made sure to never change my rhythm. She began to seem emboldened. Maybe she thought her structure had pacified me, that the trust contract had taken. She began suggesting longer retreats, mentioned one in Sedona, 4 nights. Deep nervous system work, she said, flipping through brochures she left on the coffee table like decor. She smiled more when she packed, even played music again. Light pop, the kind she used to clean the house to. I watched her leave with a kiss on the cheek, a duffel bag, and a stack of printed client worksheets sticking out of her tote. 30 minutes later, I refreshed the business account. Charge pending. The same hotel suite, same vendor ID, same package code. I didn't feel rage. Not yet. I felt focus. She was using the structure she demanded as the cover for the betrayal she didn't want to name. She believed I would never look past her language. She didn't realize I'd stopped listening to the words. The deeper I looked, the more her phrases stopped sounding like feelings and started sounding like scripts. This isn't avoidance, it's self-preservation. You're projecting onto my regulation. My nervous system can't hold your reactions right now. They came out flat, controlled, as if she'd rehearsed not just the lines but the tone. I started recording the phrases, not audio transcriptions. Notes logged by time and date. I didn't need her voice, I needed the pattern. Each phrase was a pressure release valve, a conversation ender, a way to reframe my questions as violations. I tested one. We were eating lunch, or rather I was. She picked at a salad, phone face down as always. I said, "Do you ever feel different after those retreats, emotionally?" She didn't look up. "You're scanning for inconsistency. That's not trust, that's surveillance." I nodded like I agreed, took a sip of water. 2 hours later, she reposted a carousel on social media. How to hold boundaries when your partner isn't trauma-informed. That's when I searched the post's original source. It linked to a blog. The blog didn't use her name, but the writing was hers. I knew the sentence rhythm, the way she used long M dashes like breaths. I recognized a photo watermark in the footer, a logo she'd once drafted on our kitchen whiteboard. I ran the site through a domain checker. It was hosted under a private IP, but that IP had previously registered to her coaching LLC 6 months earlier. And the content, it was more than advice, it was strategy, posts with titles like, How to Set Boundaries Your Partner Won't Argue With, What Emotional Distance Teaches You About Autonomy, Using Structure to Reclaim Your Exits. One entry chilled me. It was dated 4 weeks after her first hotel charge. Title, Freedom Inside Fidelity Contracts. It opened with, Sometimes control looks like calm. If your partner thinks you're regulated, they stop checking. That's when you get your space back. She wasn't hiding it from everyone. She was teaching it. There were comments. Some were anonymous. Some praised her insight. One even said, tried this, he never saw it coming. And she was monetizing it. PayPal buttons, coaching tiers, anonymous consults. She wasn't just detaching from the relationship. She was monetizing the model she used to disappear. That night I watched her brush her teeth, humming, relaxed. She had no idea I'd seen it all. She turned, wiping her mouth with a towel. Thanks for being chill lately. I know it's not easy. I met her eyes. I just want to honor your process. She smiled, warm, approving, then walked back to bed, content in her script. She believed she'd built a maze I couldn't navigate, but I'd stopped walking the path. I was mapping the walls. The alias she used was Arden. No last name, no photos. Just stylized graphics, muted earth tones, serif fonts, calm language with sharp undercurrents. She called herself a relational boundary strategist. I traced her voice in every paragraph. She never admitted her real identity, but the phrasing gave her away. She used words like co-regulation, somatic drift, exit permissions. None of it was language the average person used, but it was hers. I'd heard them in our kitchen, in therapy. In fights that didn't look like fights, just long monologues where I wasn't invited to respond. On the site's FAQ page, she answered a question no one had asked her publicly. Can this model apply inside a marriage? Her response, especially inside a marriage. Structures hold best where social expectation demands least resistance. It wasn't advice. It was a system. And she'd written herself a manual for it. That night I created a new folder, Public Persona. I screen captured every blog post, every comment, every site registration log I could access through cached data. I traced her pseudonym through Instagram, a coaching page freshly launched, 3 posts deep, low engagement. But one post was a carousel that quoted the same blog I'd already archived. I checked the post's engagement. Most of the likes came from a circle I recognized, not our friends, but women I'd seen comment on her personal profile. I made a chart. The overlap was wide. She was building an echo chamber and monetizing it. The next phase wasn't about the outside connection, not yet. It was about the framework she'd built to keep me questioning myself every time I noticed. That's what her system was for, not empowerment but insulation. I labeled the subfolders accordingly. Emotional scripts, financial discrepancies, public versus private statements, Arden archive, each entry had metadata. I logged timestamps, URLs, screen caps with browser tags, not because I wanted a spectacle, but because I knew how well she could reframe. She taught people how to do it, and I knew the day would come when she'd claim none of it was what it looked like, that I misinterpreted, that I took it out of context. So I documented every context. Still, I played the role. Each morning I made coffee. Each night I folded laundry. I listened to her describe her new clients, vague as shadows. She never named names, only situations. One of them is working through marital trauma. Another just left a codependent loop. The situations were always noble, empowered. She never admitted what she was really teaching, how to disappear without accountability. One afternoon she left her laptop open. I didn't go digging. I simply walked past. A calendar tab was open. Under Saturday, a private coaching call was marked with a heart emoji. Nothing else. Later that week, I printed the first set of documents, put them in a labeled folder, sealed it. I didn't show it to her, I left it in my desk drawer. This wasn't for confrontation. Not yet, this was foundation. She believed she deframed the truth with language strong enough to hold. But all it took was one document at a time, and her own words were cracking the frame. The sixth charge came during what she called her somatic solo reset. She left on a Thursday. Light packing. Nothing heavy. A tote, a yoga mat, and the same overnight duffel she used for every trip. She hugged me with practiced ease, told me she'd be off-grid. No reception, just restoration. An hour later, her business card pinged, not at a retreat center but at the same wellness hotel. Same vendor code, same room package. I didn't refresh the page. I didn't need to. It was always the same room block, the same amount, the same weekend framing. This time, though, she added a flourish. She posted a photo that evening to her Arden coaching page, a stack of herbal teas, a white robe, and a caption. Energy doesn't lie. Give yours space to speak. I reverse searched the image. It was a stock photo, not her hand, not her tea, not her room. That was the first time I felt real cold settle. She wasn't just covering her tracks. She was curating a version of herself so precise, so filtered, that even her lies came with branding. The next day, another charge, the same seafood restaurant, 2 entrees again. The same pattern, but this time I followed it. I booked a lunch reservation for the next weekend using a throwaway name just to see it, just to sit in the place where the charge happened. The maitre d' welcomed me warmly. You've been here before, I smiled. First time, someone recommended it, he nodded. Couples love the quiet booths, discreet. I asked for one of those booths, just to understand the scene. The booth was dim, set in a corner. You couldn't be seen unless someone stood right beside you. A place meant to disappear inside. I didn't eat much. I wasn't there for the food. I snapped a photo of the receipt, logged the lighting, the music, the kind of wine they served, then I left. That night she returned home glowing, skin flushed from spa heat, her voice soft, loose. Reset went deep this time, she said, curling beside me on the couch. I feel like my nervous system finally let go of all that old pressure. I nodded. You look relaxed, she smiled. It's the work finally sticking. She leaned into my side. I let her, because she thought proximity meant trust, but I wasn't beside her anymore. I was outside the frame entirely, watching the scene from a different angle. A week later, I printed the receipts, labeled them by date, matched them with the blog posts she'd made around those times. Noted the tone, confident, detached, untouchable. She wasn't concerned about being seen. She believed I'd disqualify my own perception before ever questioning hers. She debuilt that belief carefully, each boundary, each reset, each false moment of vulnerability. But now the pattern was complete. Same hotel, same restaurant, same billing path, same curated disconnection. She wasn't hiding from me. She was hiding inside a structure she believed I'd never dare challenge. I didn't plan a confrontation, not yet. That would make it her scene again. Instead, I prepared the next folder. Title, Replicated Behavior Timeline. Each entry, one line, each image, one receipt, each match undeniable. She had built a house of control. I was inventorying the exits. Her coaching circle wasn't big. A curated group of 7 women, handpicked through referrals and invite-only workshops. She called them sovereigns. A title meant to evoke power without scrutiny. They met on Zoom, but the bond ran deeper. Shared documents, Telegram groups, unsaved numbers for privacy. I knew most of it because I had seen a PDF. She left it open one night while transferring files. A document titled Workshop Prep Sovereigns Only. It outlined language templates, how to explain absences, how to deflect partner questions without escalation. One line stood out. Never offer data, only declare boundaries. Data invites debate. She was teaching strategies, not support. And then, like all closed circles built on control, a crack appeared. An anonymous message hit her public coaching inbox. She left the email open on our shared desktop by accident. The subject line was, "Does he know?" No greeting, no name, just a single sentence in the body. "He deserves the whole picture, not the one you sell." She deleted it instantly, but not before I saw the sender, a burner address, a random string. But the format matched another I'd seen on her circle's shared feedback forms, the email she'd used for Sovereign 4, based out of Portland. I couldn't be certain, but someone inside her echo chamber had broken rank. The next days were tight with tension. She triple-locked her phone, turned off read receipts, turned off shared calendars. She told me she was protecting her bandwidth, said she was getting digitally lean. But I watched her scroll, brows furrowed. Not curated calm, real worry. She asked me if I'd been talking to anyone about our marriage. I kept my voice even. No, why? No reason, just privacy matters, you know that. That night I cloned her group's Telegram invite link from her clipboard. She'd copied it and forgotten to clear it. I joined silently through an alias account. Didn't say a word, just observed. The messages weren't as empowering as she had claimed. Most were coordination, stories of disconnection, complaints about resistant partners. But then came a thread from a member named at Mirrorwork. Anyone ever feel like we're playing a script too tight? No judgment, just starting to feel hollow. It got 3 replies, all soft redirects, all laced with language I knew by heart, but the original message stayed, not deleted, not disavowed. The structure was shaking, and then I got confirmation. A second anonymous email, same tone, short, simple. He should see what Arden says when she's not being watched. Attached screenshots. Posts she'd written under Arden that never made the blog. Internal notes. A coaching call outline labeled exit structures, avoiding direct conflict. This time the proof wasn't mine to dig for. It had come to me. I archived everything. Added it to a folder titled External Leakage. She believed she controlled the lens, but the camera had turned. The night before I confronted her, we made dinner together. Nothing dramatic. Grilled salmon, sautéed greens, jasmine rice. She wore the linen apron I bought her last spring. Played that indie playlist she used when she was relaxed, soft vocals, acoustic guitar, clean chords. She moved like a woman at peace. And if I didn't know better, I might have believed her. But the folder was already packed. 12 sections, chronological, indexed. Screenshots printed in full resolution. Receipts, call logs, blog drafts, messages. The coaching outline labeled Exit Structures was paged. I had printed it on heavier stock. I didn't want her to mistake the weight. That evening she leaned against the counter while I rinsed the plates. "You've been really grounded lately," she said, voice low, affirming. "It's good to feel that." I dried my hand slowly. "I've been paying attention." She smiled at that, like it was a compliment. We watched a documentary afterward, something about mountain architecture. I couldn't tell you a single frame. I spent the entire hour watching her instead. How she tucked her legs under her, how she sipped her tea. I looked for nerves, flickers, micro-tells. There were none, because she believed the fortress she'd built around her version of events had held. What she didn't realize was that I'd never tried to breach it. I'd documented every stone. After she fell asleep, I went downstairs, retrieved the folder, checked the seals, everything intact. I didn't feel triumph, not satisfaction, not anger, just readiness. I didn't rehearse a speech. I didn't need one. I had no intention of arguing. No goal to punish, just the truth laid down in silence. The confrontation wouldn't be loud. That was her realm, emotion, reframing, spirals. I would not meet her in that space. I would place the folder down. I would speak no more than needed, and I would walk away. The truth would speak itself. The man she thought she'd taught to obey, he'd read every rule she gave him, and followed them all until they let him out. She was plating dinner when I walked in, quinoa, roasted carrots, some kind of tahini drizzle. Soft jazz played through the Bluetooth speaker. She looked up with a half smile. "I thought you'd be home later," she said, brushing her hair behind one ear. I didn't answer, just walked past the table calm and set the folder down beside her plate. Not tossed, not slammed, set. She looked at it. Pale blue, labeled in simple black font, trust structures, documented. Her brows lifted. "What's this?" I didn't sit. "Everything you asked me to respect," I said, voice steady, level. "I did." She blinked, stiffened. Her hand froze above the table, still holding a spoon. I nodded once toward the folder. "And everything you thought I wouldn't see, I did too." Then I turned and walked upstairs. No shouting, no ultimatums, no speeches, just gravity. I heard nothing for a long time, no footsteps, no flipping pages, just silence below the hum of the air vents. Then the creak of a chair. When I returned hours later, the folder hadn't moved, but her expression had. She was still seated, but not upright. She looked like someone who'd swallowed the wrong story and finally tasted the ink. You went through my things, she said, too quiet, not angry, careful. I tilted my head slightly. No, I watched, and I recorded what you gave the world while telling me I couldn't ask. She opened the folder, flipped past the first few pages. I watched her eyes scan the coaching call outlines, the billing overlaps, the receipts. Her fingers paused over the telegram log. She looked up. You don't understand, I raised a hand, not forceful, final. This isn't a debate, this is a record. I was protecting myself, she tried, voice faltering. You were always looking for something wrong, and you made sure I'd feel guilty if I found it. She shut the folder gently, eyes wet now, but not collapsing, calculating. I can explain. You already did, I said, nodding to the folder. Dozens of times, publicly, proudly, under a name you thought I'd never meet. Her breath caught, not sobbing, swallowed. Why now, she whispered. Because you made the rules, I said, voice calm, and I followed them to the edge. I honored every boundary, and when I reached the door, I looked her full in the face. I walked through it. Then I stepped back, left the folder on the table, left her seated, wrapped in the structure she'd built to feel untouchable. And I walked out, not from the house, not yet, but from the contract, because the rules she gave me weren't protection. They were camouflage, and now, exposed, they protected no one, least of all her. It didn't happen all at once. At first, she tried to hold the image, business as usual. The blog stayed up. Coaching posts kept coming. A photo of a candle-lit journal appeared on her Arden page with a caption about resilience in rupture. But the comments weren't soft anymore. Someone posted a screenshot from her folder, a coaching template titled Building Distance Without Confession. Another commented, "This you?" The post was gone in hours, but the damage didn't fade. She sent me a long email that night, not to apologize, to contextualize. Paragraphs of reframing, about her nervous system, her sense of disempowerment, how I'd weaponized observation. I didn't reply. I forwarded the folder to my attorney instead. The financial threads unraveled fast after that. I pulled my name from every joint asset I could. Business accounts, co-signed credit, the digital backend of her coaching LLC, all severed. I froze the financial protections I'd once put in place to support her growth. Because her growth wasn't a business. It was a smokescreen. Her accountant called 2 days later. They'd been contacted by the IRS. The wellness charges, the hotel receipts, the coaching expenses, they'd triggered a flag. Mixing personal retreats with business deductions had caught up with her, and I wasn't on the hook, not anymore. She messaged me after that, shorter texts, then voice notes, then silence. Her circle started to fracture. One of her sovereigns left the Telegram group, posted anonymously on a coaching watchdog forum. Nothing defamatory, just evidence. Phrases lifted directly from Arden's blog, lined up next to receipts from clients who said they were misled. The group chat imploded within the week. She pulled the blog offline, made her Instagram private, but it was too late. I didn't leak anything. I didn't have to. People talk when they realize the story they joined wasn't real. She called once. I didn't pick up. Instead, I filed the paperwork. Not a messy divorce, a clean exit. I'd already removed myself from the utilities, the insurance, the shared liabilities. The house stayed with her. I left it intact, stripped of everything I'd paid for, but otherwise untouched. Her boundaries were still standing, but she was alone inside them now. There was no scene, no public dismantling, just quiet, strategic extraction. And the echo of a truth she couldn't reframe. She used my loyalty as her cover, and I used her structure as evidence. 2 weeks later, she tried to reclaim the narrative. A post went up on her private coaching account, the Arden profile. A close-up of her hand resting on her knee, soft light, the suggestion of calm without clarity. The caption read, "Respect my boundaries even if you don't understand them." The comments weren't kind, not aggressive, not cruel, just clear. Boundaries aren't excuses. Therapy speak doesn't erase accountability. I respected mine, then I saw the folder. Someone posted a link to one of her now deleted blog entries, the one about neutral exits. Another tagged the coaching forum thread that had dissected her script structure line by line. She turned off comments by evening. By morning, the account was gone. A final post appeared on her personal page a few days later, a short story about grief and growth, wrapped in poetic abstraction. It didn't name me, Didn't name anything, but I recognized the tone. It was a farewell without responsibility, but this time people weren't reading gently. Context had arrived, and it changed everything. In the weeks that followed, I started getting messages, quiet ones, from people who had watched from the periphery, acquaintances, former friends, even someone from her circle I'd only met once at a brunch. They didn't ask for details. They thanked me for being silent but thorough, for not exploding, for surviving her structure without feeding it. What they didn't say, but what I understood, was that they'd seen something in her version of control before, but hadn't known how to name it. Now they did. Meanwhile, I moved into a small place across town, sparse but clean, every item in it mine, every square foot unshared. I didn't decorate, not yet. That would take time, but the quiet wasn't empty, it was mine. She sent one final message, a voice memo, short, breath in, breath out. I hope you understand, it was never about hurting you. I didn't respond because I did understand. It was never about hurting me. It was about preserving her freedom, even at the cost of my trust. And once I stopped trying to preserve the structure for her, I walked right through it.